Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of the NRL Supercoach Hub podcast. Joined this evening, one of the co-hosts, myself, Hampo, formerly of BJ on Game Day. Joined tonight by the Myth and Holden. How are we, gentlemen?
Doing pretty well, thank you. Happy to be here and chat some Supercoach ahead of Magic Round.
Yeah, pretty good. Just absolutely demolished the dinner before I jumped on. So if I do an awkward burp, I'm sorry in advance.
Full belly, mate. Full belly. Good to hear. As you said, Myth, on the eve of Magic Round. Origin not too far away as well, mate. Plenty of injuries, plenty of stuff happening off the field as well, boys. How'd you fare in round 10? Quick recap of scores and how you're sitting overall.
I had a 12.42, which gave me a small green up to, I think, 320 odd. So tracking pretty well. A few pods went off. Playing Blaze Talangi also was quite helpful last week.
Solid, mate. Very solid year for you so far. Good stuff. Holden, mate, how you going?
Yeah, I didn't do too bad either. Scored a 12.10 and shot up 700 spots up to 11.57. So solid, almost there.
Doing well, boys. Nearly in that top 1,000, Holden. That's always good. 11.32 for me, boys. I only had 16 runners on the weekend. Cool. Caught out by a couple of injuries, already made some trades. So, look, 11.32. I've managed to climb up the rankings a little bit, just sitting at 8,800 overall. So, not as good as you blokes, but at least saw some green arrows with 16. Can't complain. I will mention, though, I captained Turbo straight up just for something different. He obviously got injured before that game finished, and the week before I captained Pap. So, I'm just looking for a bit of sympathy at the moment, trying to get a captain out there for 80 minutes. But that'll be my only sob story tonight. I'll leave it there, all right?
I captained Drinky, and yeah, I'm on the verge of potentially just captaining a forward or a second rower at this point.
Yeah, well, I suppose I can't complain in light of the Hines obviously getting ruled out. Cleary was pretty big as well. Yeah, I guess in retrospect, Turbo wasn't too bad. Who'd you captain, Myth?
I was Drinky as well, and it was a bit of a rough watch on Sunday afternoon. That those Cowboys expected them to really perform, and they let us down. Oh, except for my boy Jeremiah Nanai. He was fine.
They were abysmal. God, I couldn't watch that for more than like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it was as them and the Warriors are just sort of, they got the squads, but they've just sort of fallen off cliffs. If they get it right, they can sort of be very dangerous teams. But yeah, not doing awesome at the moment. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting, boys, as I said, moving towards that origin period. Some big injuries, as I said. Probably most notably was Cleary. Did you boys manage to dodge Cleary? Did you have him? What happened? Anyone bring him in?
I dodged him. I hadn't brought him back. He's been in the trade plans, in many of the trade ideas coming into the last couple of weeks. But I think when he was ruled out that game against I think it was the Rabbitohs game, where he didn't back up 5 days later, it was a red flag for me. It was a case of then too late, too close to Origin. I'll go without him, and fortunate to avoid another casualty. Blessing
in disguise. Holden, you managed to dodge it?
Yeah, so I traded him out the first time he got injured this year, like early in the year, and he wasn't in my trade plans, to be honest. I went straight to SJ pretty early in the season, but now SJ's in my trade plans out of no fault of my own. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolute havoc. I guess we'll touch on injuries a little bit later, but just a bit of a recap. On last week, we got the community results out of the hub, top 3 overall. We got Latino Adrian sitting in 3rd. Wow, just wow. Mitch in 53rd and Maury Ryan in 60th. So very solid. Adrian nestled into the top 10 there, doing quite well, and a couple of boys sitting in the top 100. And our top 3 scores out of the hub was Wong Fanu, Bill's side with 13.59. We had Nathan with the Ender Green Machine with a 13.38. And a Clunkosaurus from Nathan with a 13.18. So some pretty decent score from the boys there as well this week. Some news happened around the place, non-Supercoach related at the moment, guys, but obviously plenty of chat about David Fifita. There was an announcement, I think, a few days ago. He had actually signed with the Chooks. And I think it's come out today. He's done the, I like to call it the backflip. Some people are saying it's not a backflip, but I reckon it's a backflip in every sense of the word, and it turns out he's going to stay on at the Titans for another couple of years, boys. What do you reckon's pretty big news there?
I'd have a bit of sympathy for the other club if it was anyone other than the Roosters, I reckon.
I think most people are thinking similar.
Yeah, if it was going to a club like the Tigers or the Dragons or something, you'd feel for him. But yeah, I guess you don't feel it as bad going to the Roosters. But do you guys have like an idea as to why? Because there's all kinds of theories, and you've got the official explanations. Any idea?
I don't think anything's official, but if I was going to hazard a guess, I reckon it's just family related, to be honest.
I have a feeling something because they kept on saying that he had to make a decision on the option by last Thursday, right? Do you reckon he backflipped and then he went back to the Titans and they went, well, if you want to take it, you're going to have to take both years. I'm going to have you until the end of 26.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of for me, it's a bit of a weird clause, right? Because you're sort of not committing to the team. I mean, I know you're trying to protect yourself if coaches leave, and that can be a bit messy at times if clubs don't perform. But you just don't know with player managers involved in this stuff now, and they obviously get commissions on contracts, whether that was just a sort of a bit of a hardball with the Titans to try and get more money. We don't know I don't know what that extension looked like for him, but he obviously took a pretty heavy pay cut. Apparently, he was going to move to the to the Roosters, or the Panthers were strongly linked to him. So I don't know. Even the other thing I don't get is I understand a player taking a pay cut to move to a better side, but they're all meant to have like a minimum market value as set by the NRL auditor, the salary cap auditor. I don't know where that comes in. Like, there's clubs out there struggling to sign players, and some of these stronger clubs, it's just all they can do is sign players, and they're getting them for unders. So it's just the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. But yeah, definitely not unhappy to see him do the backflip on the Chooks because they didn't need him, that's for sure.
They did not.
I'd love to see Gus move on now as well and really leave him in a pile, but maybe that's getting a bit cruel.
Yeah, imagine Gus goes to the Panthers now.
Yeah, that'd be suck it. But anyway, well, it'll be interesting. I mean, it was a pretty tasty prospect, the idea of him possibly in that Rooster side for next year from a Supercoach perspective, or even running off Cleary. The Panthers would have been probably pretty unstoppable. But yeah, I mean, he's been playing some really good footy this year. I don't know if either of you blokes owe him, but he is starting to get in the groove again. Obviously, Origin coming up, and he's that Dave Fed we're all probably used to seeing. Hopefully, he can just keep it up and keep pulling his finger out because at times he can be a bit lazy, but he's looking all right in the last few weeks.
Scary watch when you don't own him.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible watch. It's probably one of the worst in Supercoach.
It's my first time not owning him. I started the year with him both my other years.
Yeah, and also... Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, he's getting close to Joey Manu levels of fear when he goes to dummy half now.
Yeah, that try he scored on the weekend. He pushed his way in there, didn't he, and just said, give me that ball.
It's too easy.
Yeah. Moving on, boys. Round 11 upcoming, as I said, Magic round. So we've got no game on Thursday. We've got the 2 games on the Friday night and then 3 on the Saturday, Sunday. Plenty of injuries happening around the place. Obviously, Cleary's now out looking possibly around 8 weeks. SJ, I'm not entirely sure what the official word was on him in regards to how long he'd be out, but obviously he's not there. No Jerome Hughes, no Mitch Moses again, and obviously plenty of question marks around Nicho Hynes. I'd imagine there's plenty of teams looking at the prospect of, if you've got an SJ Hynes or Cleary, SJ, Cleary, Hynes, a bit of an issue this week. First of all, what is your halves combination? And if you have a Cleary SJ or a Hynes SJ combo or something like that, how are you approaching it?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, all right. I've got a Hynes Hughes combo. So
even better.
Hold on to Hughes. So he's not going to be back until I think round 14 is the word. So at the moment, it's staring down the barrel of an AE if Hynes is laid out. And the only other options that I can see are Sam Walker or Matt Burton, who both I think, have a lot of cons against their name. So at the moment, I think I'm just going to wear an AE if it has to come down to that. But still plenty of time to change my mind there.
Do we have any intel on the SJ? Because I know he obviously
It was
had
2
an
weeks,
issue with the
but then,
pec. 2 weeks.
but then he's on a buy on in week 13.
Okay, so
No
he's
problem.
going to end up with a 3-week rest probably.
So same as Hughes, probably back around 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about this week, and I'm a Hines and SJ owner, the good thing about this week is Walker plays the second last match, I think. Oh, no, I'm tripping. I'm looking at week 12. Never mind, ignore me.
Plays the same game as Hines, which is useful. So you'll know whether or not Hines
Yeah.
is out or not before you can make the move or not.
Yeah. That's good to know.
So I think
Yeah,
most halfback setups, you'll be able to wait until that team list for Sharks if you can hold a trade back till then.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Obviously, not too early in the round, but also not so late. But yeah, potentially a good move there to be able to go to Sam Walker if that's what you want to do. Obviously, I can't see Sam getting picked for Origin this year. Maybe ends up in camp, but he shouldn't play unless there's any injuries. And the Chooks obviously play. They play round 13 as well, don't they? Because Joey Manu was looking like a pretty good target. They play 13.
I don't know if you get too many Chooks players, though. Already got Angus, Mayan, Young. How many is too many?
Depends how many
Yeah,
Raiders, Dolphins you got.
Yeah, true.
When they play two of those 3 big buy rounds of Chooks, 13 and 16. So yeah, any of those non-Origin ones are probably not necessarily any wrong answers there, as long as you can sort of cover them for in that round 19 on the turnaround. But yeah, other big news, obviously, just speaking of the Chooks, is Joey Manu out as well, late HIA boys. And there was some concern around a possible facial fracture. I haven't heard any more on that, but hopefully it'll just be this week for Joey, and he'll be back next week because he looks like he's in some unbelievable form. And yeah, obviously playing round 13 and 16, he's pretty much a must-have, I'd say.
I wouldn't want to go into a Sunday afternoon in round 13 watching Joey Manu against an Origin depleted Cowboys in Sydney at 4:00 in the afternoon without him in my side. I think you're just asking for trouble if you're not doing that. Assuming Teddy is unavailable. If he's at Manu's at centre, less scary, but in his form at the moment, he's just looking unreal regardless.
Yeah, it's he's another one that I don't know why I haven't jumped on. Most years I do, but it's a terrible watch at the moment. He's looking really good, and you'd have to think at some for 13 and 16. Myth, I don't know if you said it there, but he's going to end up in that fullback spot as well, assuming Teddy's in the sky blue jersey, which who knows what's going to happen with that Origin side. But if he's playing fullback as well, we've all seen what he can do there already this season. Yeah, he's absolute must-have, even at over 800k for mine.
I remember 4 weeks ago, I was sitting there going, I'm going to wait till Manu gets a little bit cheaper. And he hasn't. It doesn't look like he ever will.
Yeah.
I remember looking at him that week he was at fullback when Teddy was out. It was a case of going, or do I trade him in and just get the ton that's probably coming when he's at fullback and then just have him at centre anyway for the next few weeks? It was, no, he'll get cheaper. I'll pick him up close to the high 600s before round 13. He's not coming below 800 before round 13.
No.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at him this week because you just got to get him in. I haven't jumped on yet. So that combination with Dom Young on the edge as well is obviously devastating. We saw on the weekend what they're capable of. I know they started like a bull out of the gate. They sort of lost their way a little bit there, but yeah, it's an absolutely deadly combination out there on the right for the Chooks. And yeah, with Sammy and James Tedesco looking pretty good as well. They've just got a bit of strike all over the park, so yeah, I don't think you can do too much wrong getting a few of those Chooks into your side as you prep for these upcoming buys. Obviously, the lads' Turbo was another big injury on the weekend. Did the hamstring late, another hamstring for Turbo, not good. Possibly, I've heard, I think 7 to 10 weeks for that. Have we got Turbo owners in the house tonight, or what's doing at fullback?
No Turbo for me. I got my fullback injury last week with Pappy, so avoided this one. Didn't cop the double like yourself, fortunately for me. But I think it's a tricky spot for Turbo owners because I don't think there's a clear-cut option to go to with 2 rounds to go before Origin.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So I've got Turbo. I had Paps the week before, so it's been just an absolute burn your trade fest for me lately. I went Paps to Walsh last week because I was just scared of the blow-up potential of Walsh. I was going to go Drinky, but I just thought they were going to put that Parasite to the sword. So I think I'll just go Turbo to Drinky this week because I think it's too dangerous not having Drinkwater, and they could, as much as they've struggled a bit, I think Drinky's always a shining light in that side, and at any point I think that most things that are happening in that Cowboys side are generally happening around him. So I think I'll have to just go straight to Turbo to Drinky. But there's probably arguments to be made to go to you could potentially look at guys like Armstrong if you haven't already jumped on, Edwards as well, I guess, depending on what you're thinking about the Origin side. Fay Logo is an interesting one. He's not bottom dollar. I think he's about that $340,000 price range, but he's another one you could look at potentially. But yeah, the elite fullback options are starting to run a little bit thin.
I think I've had every single fullback except Walsh this year, which has really pissed me off. All right.
But burning trades, it's been, I mean, if you think Classic's hard, I don't know if either of you boys play draft, but holy dooly, draft's been an absolute schmozzle this year as well. So yeah, shout out to all the draft players out there as well, feeling the pain, no doubt. The other news there at fullback, boys, obviously Fuller was a pretty popular one. He's now dropped out the side with Hammer coming back, which is a bit of a shame. It is a bit of a tricky one, I reckon. The centres haven't been going too bad. I know, I think Averillo's been called out a little bit defensively, but I thought they've been pretty good, so it would have been pretty harsh to drop one of them for Hammer. But that said, I saw something during the week on another pod about if you're playing a grand final tomorrow, would you rather have Hammer and Fuller in your side, Fuller at fullback, Hammer in the centres, or Hammer at fullback and Averillo in the centres? And I'd probably rather have Fuller at fullback and Hammer in the centres, to be honest. So interesting to see what happens with that one, but it's a bit tricky for owners now. Any of you boys get on the Fuller train at all?
No Fuller here, and I think it's the Wayne Bennett comments during the week were quite interesting. That Fuller will get his shot back in the team. The confidence we have in him means that we don't have to have Hammer back up from Origin. Now, if those comments are to be believed, Fuller's going to play 5 out of the 6 bye rounds through the Origin period. You'll play 13, you'll play 16, you'll play 17, you'll play 19, you'll play 20. Can you lock down a fullback spot for the next 10 weeks, knowing he's going to play 5 of those, but then the 5 are the hardest to cover?
And it is tough as well. Yeah, go on, Holden.
So I was just going to say, honestly, I'd keep him if you think he is going to play like 5 out of the 6 games during Origin. Like if you own him at fullback, just keep him.
The Finns pay all 3 of those big buy rounds. I think they're the only side that play 13, 16 and 19, if I'm not mistaken. Sure, if Hammer's not, the only reason Hammer's not in that Origin side is because he's injured. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty valid point. It just sort of means if you are going to hold him, you're going without that fullback position for the next couple of weeks, which can be quite crucial, and then those games in between. But I guess that's one of those things you've got to weigh up and what's best for your side and the trades you've got. He's still probably got a little bit of money in him as well, pretty low break even, 21. So, another good score, and he probably starts his cash generation again, but you probably do need like a good solid 70, 80 plus out of him again next time he goes out.
I think it's an
interesting spot.
His B should go back down next week after that 38 rolls out of his average as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one for owners.
Whenever he next plays, so.
Yeah.
Probably one of those things where it's going to come down to before, if he was scoring 65, 70s at that price and making the cash, he was worthwhile. But you almost need him to really go big on those buy rounds to be worth the hold now. If he comes out those buy rounds and scores 60s, it's not going to be worthwhile because you'll miss out tons from the other big dogs. Edwards, Teddy, Drinkwater, Walsh, there's still Latrell. There's still plenty of those fullbacks there that can really torch you. But he's got to go big if you hold him.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? And the Rabbits, I mean, really interesting to mention Trell. They don't play 13, but if he decides to rule himself out of Origin and try and focus on the Rabbits, which they definitely need that at the moment, him in round 16 and 19 could be a real point of difference and potentially a big spot where you could make some ground if he blows up in those rounds as well. So, yeah, some big decisions coming up.
Not just that on Trell, the Bunnies have a pretty good run. They go Titans, Broncos, Manly, bye, Eels, Dolphins, Tigers. So it's a pretty good run, and that round 17 bye is only Titans, Bunnies, and I believe Manly on the bye. So that should probably be the easiest of the 6 to cover. It'll be tempting.
Yeah, another tricky one because he hasn't ruled himself out of Origin or anything yet, as far as I'm aware. But it's sort of a bit of a catch-22 because if he's playing that well that you want him, there's potentially a chance of a call-up. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But we're interested to see how that plays out. But plenty of big decisions to make that could be, season-defining for some people. Did you want to run through the team list, gents, quickly? Or I know we've got a couple key ones up there. Did you want to run through those team lists for this weekend?
I'm okay. I think most people are pretty on top of the team list from what I've found. I think the people listening, I'm happy to back them in that they've gone and had a look. Is there anything from the team list that stood out to you?
Trying to have a think. I mean, we've got it there on the run sheet. Obviously, KPP's an interesting one. He was pretty popular. He'd sort of hit a bit of form. Boys, he's been relegated to the bench at this point. There is some chat that Frizzell's in doubt, along with Bradman Best and Dane Gagai. There's a bit of mail floating around there and a bit of doubt. If Frizz drops out, I assume KPP will move into that starting side. But with the Knights playing round 13, it is a bit of a tricky one if he does stay on that bench. He only played, I think, 40 minutes on the weekend or 45 minutes. Are we KPP owners, gents? Or
yeah,
what's doing?
He only played 40 minutes because Gamble got injured, Crossland moved to 6, and Frizzell went into the middle as well. So if that didn't happen, I've got no idea how many minutes he was playing. He could have been playing 15 minutes at the end and scored 15 points. Thankfully, he didn't, and we got a half-decent score out of him. But it's kind of concerning moving into this round. I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do with him yet.
Do we think maybe he was getting a little bit of a rest? Because Brayley got a rest the week before, didn't he? Played 40 minutes and then went back up to 80.
It's sort of weird. Like, I'm a Newey fan, and I watched it closely because I'm a big Dylan Lucas fan, and I thought when I saw in the trial form he had done enough to win that spot, and then as it turned out he hadn't. And then at one point there, Lucas had fallen out of the 17, so he was fully out of favour. He wasn't in the top 17, and then Frizzell got injured for a few weeks there, and he came back in, but he's now, I guess, played his way into that jersey. He's probably outdoing him on form now. It might just be a tricky one. Like, so they play round 13. They also play round 19. But he's going to start to bleed a bit of cash now if he's only going to play 40 minutes and score 40 points off the bench.
They do have a bye next week.
They do. I think is it a high 70s break even this week. But he's still at a pretty good price that you could potentially upgrade him. But another tough one. Ideally, you'd like to see Frizz out this week if you're a KPP owner, just so you can sort of maintain that price and then reassess come round 13 because it only takes a couple injuries and anything can happen, and there's plenty of those at the moment. I wouldn't call it a luxury trade, but like I said, with the amount of injuries and other probably fires people have at the moment, there might be some people that just sort of have to wear it as well.
Yeah, there'll be plenty out there that just have so many bigger priorities than KPP at the moment. I think fingers crossed that he does end up starting come game day because he's a great player against the Titans. He could, and if you can get one score, it makes the hold a lot easier because then you can wear a couple lower scores without it impacting his price too much. But if he drops, say, a 20, 25 this week, that's what, 40K loss, and his BE will probably be triple figures the following week on the bye. If you hold him for a 25 on the buy round but lose 100K, it's not really worth it. It's another one of those situations, damned if you do, damned if you don't. A lot of those this week.
Yeah, it's tough. Not enough trades either. I feel like every week I'm just burning trades, boys, and they aren't infinite, as we all know, and you'll have those big buy rounds where you get a few extras. If you're using max trades and or boosting during those big buy rounds or whatever, if you've only got mid-20s worth of trades or even in the low 30s, late 20s, they'll go pretty quickly. So, yeah, it's going to start to get tricky soon for people that are burning through trades as well. Like myself, I'll put my hand up there.
Yeah, I've saved one.
I've got one boost left.
Yeah, no, I've used all mine. It was terrible.
Mine was gone a while ago.
You did as well?
Nice.
Yeah. It's interesting, the different strategies with it. I sometimes feel like at the back end it'd be good to have at least one for some of those head-to-head matchups if you're playing cashy finals and stuff like that. But I'm an overall player, so it was all about trying to get in a good position. But I didn't even do that, so I'm out the window this year, I reckon.
Ideal strategy is hold one or two off for those minor buy rounds after Origin, but I got stung early. Like, I've been relatively okay over the past month injury-wise, not copying as many as the main group, but that first 5 weeks I got slammed and I just boosted my way out of trouble. So I just was trading injured players out week after week to just try and keep up the pace, and it was worth it in the end, but it means I would really like one for that round 14. I think a few people are going to get caught out.
I
was doing all right. Sorry, I was doing all right on the injury front to start the year, but I played fullback roulette unsuccessfully. So that really kicked me in the ass.
Yeah, as someone that has no boosts left, YOLO. Even now, just to have one with everything that's going on to be able to bring in that other guy would be so great. But I'm just doing it 2 at a time at the moment, which, yeah. Anyway, another one we got here, boys. Dommy Young, obviously a massive score on the weekend. Super impressive in that Chook side. We touched on that combination with Manu. Are we Dom Young owners? And if not, have you missed the boat? Is it too late to jump on? What are we thinking about Dom Young?
I'll let you start this one, mate.
I think, I am a Dom Young owner, thankfully.
Very jump on last week? Did you bring him in last week? Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Almost brought him in the game before his Bulldogs game as well, but decided not to and brought Teddy in instead. That didn't work out either, but at least it wasn't a minus 15. I think you haven't missed. Yeah, I think you haven't missed the boat if you don't have Dom Young. It's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be maybe a little bit iffy with Manu out this week, but he's on a, what happened to him? It was a HIA, right? And he'll be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back next week. And I think you're taking the average out of, like, the minus 15 out of Dom Young's scores. He's still averaging in, like, the high 80s. He'll still make a bit of cash, and the Roosters look phenomenal. I think if you're going to get in, like, this might be the last week to get him in.
Definitely. Yeah. Myth, what do you reckon?
I think Supercoach is tricky because we've got our pride to us a bit, and sometimes we look at a player that's just gone 160 that we've missed, and we go, well, I missed the big score, it's not worth it, I'm going to make up those points elsewhere. But I think sometimes you got to swallow your pride, and I think this is one of those times. He's on the end of just probably the most lethal edge in the competition at the moment, and he's so fast that any half opportunity they create, he breaks the line, and he gets tries served on a platter. Yet he's also just breaking through the line off a hit up coming out of trouble. I think he's pretty close to essential at the moment, particularly looking at that round 13 matchup that I mentioned earlier. That the Cowboys look so weak on the edges. He could do that 150 again. He's already got 2 150 scores this year. I don't really want to go. I wouldn't want to not own him, knowing that could happen pretty much any week.
Yeah, I think so, boys. Like, if you consider you're looking at guys like Osako and Manu at over 800k, or you could get Dom Young at under 700, still a negative 30 break even, plays 2 of those 3 big buy rounds, and as you guys have touched on, in potentially one of the best backlines in the comp at the moment. He's big, he's range, he's a target in the air. You'd want to have a pretty good reason not to bring him in, I reckon. Even with that 160, and they're big tons. They're not little tons. Like, he's scoring 150, 160. I sort of called earlier in the year in another chat that there'll be a week when the Chooks put 60 on someone and he's going to score 200. It was nearly last weekend. I think he's still got plenty of that in him. So I definitely don't think it's too late. And if you don't own him, he's going to be a tough watch, over the buy period and stuff like that as well, especially because he's probably... Yep.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. He's going to probably be upwards of 800k pretty shortly too.
I was just going to say, do you reckon people might find it hard to bring him in this week with all the carnage that's gone on?
Yep.
Definitely.
I would prioritize him.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was my next question. In that scenario where you've got like maybe a busted Hughes or an SJ plus someone else, would you prioritize getting Dom Young in and hold one of your busted players?
It's exactly what I did last week. I held the Hines Hughes, could have moved at Walker, could have made an alternate trade when KPP benched. I know a few were going to trade in Young and then KPP benched and they went to Fafita, which still worked out okay, but missing Young was a big stinger in terms of cash gen. So, yeah, I would really much prioritize it. Like, instead of one of the fullbacks, Turbo to Drinky. Instead of Turbo to Drinky, going Turbo to Young and just getting him in. I think this might be the cheapest we see him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's likely to end up a top 4 centre wing by the end of arguably as well. There's some great options in the centre wing position this year, so that's obviously debatable. But yeah, I think we're all on the same page with that. But yeah, he's still relatively low ownership wise as well, lads. I'm only seeing 15% here. That's still not huge. So. Moving on. Anything else that has caught your eye, gentlemen, in the team list or your teams that you're looking at, or any players that are starting to pique your interest? You want to give insights to?
I think you go, Holden.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think we didn't touch on this, but Trindle, that pest, he's back in the reserves. What do we think?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit.
Be happy if I was a Ronnie owner.
Yeah, true.
I guess it's all just dependent on that Hines mail, right? Like, my understanding is he'll only come in if Hines is out. Or is he going to come in for Atkinson if Hines plays? I'm not sure. I think the only reason he's allowed to play is because of a little bit of a loophole with his sample of his drug test or something coming back. So if he does play, yeah, I think Ronnie owners will rejoice a bit. But I guess it is a bit of a concern that he's there. And I guess the other thing with that is the Sharks are flying. They don't really need to risk him at this point. They obviously got the job done against Melbourne, somewhat controversially last week without him. They look good. Maybe they sit him again and rest him. But, he's the kind of guy that will probably want to be out there with them playing the Chooks as well. It's a big game for him out there at Magic Round this weekend. And he probably wants to give himself a bit of a run before Origin potentially as well. It'll be really interesting to see that Sharkies team list an hour before kickoff if we don't hear sooner.
I think every super coach is hoping that we get some information on these guys before that first game of Magic Round. could cause some carnage if you try and trade out or in Raiders players or Dogs players or a Walsh. Some of these things impact your trades. It could be a bit messy.
Yeah, it's just like the injuries are just crazy. Like the amount of top line players that have been getting injured over the last few weeks. It's just a war of attrition. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting over the next few weeks into Origin. Obviously, these big buy rounds you could really move and shake if you get a little bit of luck there with your squad and duck some of these big injuries. Someone I don't have, lads, who I did have earlier in the year and then jumped off because I was a bit spooked by what I saw, but I've regretted it ever since. But he looked awesome on the weekend, and he's coming in for me this week. Is Dill Brown. I was tossing up between him and Walsh last week. Obviously, the Eels play round 13, and I think they play on the other ones as well. But yeah, he's coming straight in for me. He looks awesome. He probably had a big 100 plus in him last week if it wasn't for a couple of forward pass calls and a couple of things as well. But they do play 13 and 19, so yeah, I'm jumping on Dill Brown this week from the Brains Trust in me. Jumped on Tamari Martin about a month ago to jump on the cash and the inform Warriors side, and that just worked out terribly. So looking forward to that trade this week, I can tell you that.
It hasn't worked out too well tomorrow, Martin.
Nah, it's been a shocker. And I've had to wear it because of all these injuries. I've had to play him. I've reversed trades because he was playing and had to wear his 30s. It's been an absolute debacle. And the Warriors have just gotten worse every week.
I feel like he came in and killed the rest of the Warriors as well. I had loaded up on like 4 Warriors at some point. Now I can't wait to get rid of them.
I had Egan, SJ, Tamari Martin. It was looking all right. They had a good draw coming up. I think they had Titans, Dragons, or Dragons into Titans. I was thinking, this is looking good, and it probably couldn't have gone worse. Anyway,
I had AFB, like SJ, CNK, RTS. Got rid of RTS last week. Probably need to get rid of CNK as well. But yeah, just touching on that. Dylan Brown also great buy. I actually held him. So kind of chuffed with that.
Yeah. Should never trade keeper, boys. I know the rule and I didn't obey it.
No, you can trade a keeper. Just got to be pick and choose your moments. I'm pretty sure I'm, breaking that rule in a sense this week because I'll be trading out Garrick to Dill Brown actually.
Oh, there you go.
Garrick.
Cool.
Yeah. Don't like the next month.
It's big. He's one of those guys. He's just got that ceiling in him. But those are the kinds of decisions that can be season defining. Obviously, no Turbo in the side. He hasn't got the fullback spot as well. Cooler's obviously gone back there now. You'd have to imagine their attack's probably going to suffer without Turbo there. So it's probably not a bad call, Myth, to be fair. But you're still going to probably death ride him a bit for the next couple of weeks. And they don't play 13 as well. But I get it. But yeah, it'd be a bit of a death ride.
I'm kind of jealous. I'm in no position to even think about that trade.
It's sometimes a blessing and a curse when you've got the ability to make those moves. Sometimes you make silly moves. Like I could sit here in a week's time after Garrick scored 120 and torched Selwyn Cobbo, and I'll look like a fool. But if I was going to cherry pick 4 matches to death ride Garrick against Broncos, Storm, Abai, and Penrith, it would be pretty close to my selections.
It doesn't really get better on paper, does it?
Do you own Val?
However you look at it.
Val? Yeah.
I've been thinking about moving him on. What do you think?
Definitely not against the Rabbits. I think it's definitely worth a watch then.
Maybe not this week, but I mean, like even when they're playing, I mean, he just played the Titans and the Dolphins.
Yep.
Couldn't pass 60. The Cows look woeful.
They do. He was a brain fade away from a 75 though. Plus if he kicked the goal. So he still finds his way to points. He's one of those guys that you're watching him have this awful game. He's nowhere to be seen. and then you check the score at the end of the day and he's got 55, and you're going, how did that happen? I don't mind trading any Origin player really over Origin though, so I think to free up a centre wing spot, it's definitely an option for people to get off him. I'm thinking I'm going to hold at the moment, but you got to pick and choose your Origin guns you sell and which ones you hold.
I think that's the big thing, right? He's definitely not going to play any of those buy rounds, even if the Cows are. He's surely still playing Origin. Can't not see him getting picked for Queensland. I get the trade, but it is another one of those Garrick-like trades that could burn you later. But if ever you're going to do it, it's probably, maybe not this week as Myth said against the Rabbits, but strong consideration moving into that Origin buy for round 13 or whatever it is. But
if he's your only way to Manu, for example, like if you can only get to Manu round 13 by selling Holmes, I'd be selling Holmes.
Okay, that was pretty much what I was thinking.
He's just sort of that one try away from a 60-70 outside back, isn't he, with his goal kicking? So, buyer or seller beware. Just speaking on Origin players, boys, while we got it, there's obviously plenty of conjecture around what that Blues side will look like, especially around the halves. Obviously, Cleary's not there. There's chat about Moses if he's back. Will Luai get the 6? You got Burton there, potentially as well. Who knows? What are your thoughts on your Origin possibles and looking at guys like that in the next couple of weeks? Are you trying to avoid Origin players from here on in, so you can manage those upcoming buys and that sort of thing, or how he's thinking about it?
I'll let you start.
I don't know, if you spoke to me like near the start of the year, I would have said by round 11, round 12, don't think about Origin players, obviously. But with the amount of injuries, with the amount of maybes and whatnot, I'm on the fence about just making sure that I've got the 17 for round, like for the minor buys over the major buys, and if I have like 11 or 12 for the major buys, I'm not going to be too stressed.
Yeah, okay. So, are you mean carrying more Origin players? And
yeah, I might honestly, and I don't think I'll be selling too many of them if I have them either.
Yeah, if you got the depth, it's a lot easier to pull off. If you got a Viliami Fafita, Joe Chan, and maybe another enough in there, then it's a lot harder to do. But if you can get to that 24, 25 man squad, it does become a lot easier to hold those guys.
Yeah, the only NPR I have is I don't know how to say his name. The Bulldogs forward, Palasa.
Yeah,
I'll probably keep him till the end of the year.
I don't think it's too late to go for those Origin guys. I'm trying to get a balance. I'm looking at where I might hold one. So Val Holmes is one I'm looking at probably holding. Nicho Hynes, Origin or not, I think he's just going to sit there for the year. When he's on, he's just too hard to death ride. And I think the games he's actually playing through Origin, like those ones that are non-Origin affected in the next 6-7 weeks, are really good matchups where he's a captain option. I don't think I'm going to mess around with that. But I think every other Origin player I've got, Nanai is probably going to go. Gus Crichton's a good chance of going. It's just, I want to hit those major buy rounds hard is, I guess, where I'm sitting at the moment.
It's interesting, right? Because it's only your best 13 as well. So even if you're running 16, 17 or 15, it'll only be your top 13 scorers. So if you are going to probably miss, it's probably not a bad one to miss in terms of if you're going to look at that 10, 11, 12 sort of coverage. But I feel like in the last couple of years, it hasn't been the big buy rounds. It's been that week after the big buy rounds where there's those Origin restings, guys getting pulled late that have caught people out. And obviously at the back end of the year as well, we're talking about trades and that sort of thing. At the end of last year, if I wish I just kept a couple of trades because there was so many late sort of guys that were ruled out, it just makes such a big difference to your overall standings if you're having guys not play. So I think for me, given the current climate with injuries, as you boys have sort of touched on, you still need those players now more than ever that are playing that have that blow-up potential, which is why I was happy to bring in like a Reece Walsh, guys like that. But I'm straight away looking at guys like Joey Manu, AFB, Elise Katoa that I don't currently have, which, they're not going to play Origin. They might not necessarily play, say, two of that, like the Storm don't play 13 and 19. But I just think, once you get Elise Katoa in, it doesn't matter. And he's going to be sweet for all those other weeks pending injury. Same with AFB. So it's just, I guess, trying to get the timing right for some of those guys. But yeah, it's a bit different this year. I can't remember a year we've had so many injuries like we've had in the last few weeks, to be honest. Probably this year in general.
Been carnage, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop. I think that's the challenge with these bye rounds that are coming up. You might plan your team, you'll have a look at it and go, okay, I need to make 2 trades next week on round 13, and I'll have 13 for the bye round, and I'm sweet. Then all of a sudden 2 players get injured and the max you can get to is 12. Or you plan to have 17 for that minor bye round, and then 3 Origin players don't back up, and suddenly you're stuck with 14. You almost got to look at your numbers, how many you want, and then add 1 or 2 on it into your planning, just so you're ready when the carnage happens, because it's going to happen.
Between these bloody hip drops and HIAs and stuff now, it's just so easy a guy can miss the next week. Like, as soon as someone does a hip drop, you're like, no, because it's probably going to be minimum a week, if not 2 or 3, depending on how they feel. So yeah, it's a good point. You probably want to factor in a couple more just for a bit of fat, because this is so much happening.
Depending on the ref, you might accidentally tap someone on the face, just stroke someone's face and get sent off.
Or run through and cop someone's stud on your shin and get penalised for it. Or
look at someone the wrong way. You never know.
I think anything else you want to mention, boys? I don't know if there's any live or submitted questions, Myth, that we want to bring up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you boys want to raise around our original buys or strategy, unless we can jump into some of the questions we got.
Happy to go into the questions. We've got
Sweet.
a couple live and got a couple sent in, so I'll just start with the sent in ones. Someone wants to know, worth trading Cleary to Sam Walker or waiting a week for Dylan Brown?
Yeah, because you'll get that dual update as well, won't he, next week, which is quite interesting. What's that? Chooks. What's the Chooks coverage on buys?
This is from James, right? Pretty sure he's got Munster in his 5/8 as well. So if I was him, I'd hold for Brown in the halves.
Yeah, definitely hold if you've got Hines. I mean, if Hines plays, but if Hines doesn't play, let's assume he's out. Would you be recommending copying an AE or going to Sammy Walker?
I think the only other concern with Sammy, it's probably injury dependent, but he's probably maybe not in that 5/8 spot, because you've got Munster, Did, and probably Man as well. But if DCE goes down,
he's next up.
He's probably next up, right? And I know it's like obviously injury dependent, but there's a bit of risk there probably as well. That said, they do play 13 and 16, so I can see the appeal. But
are you guys major like Sam Walker fans? Because I'm not sure if I'm super sold on him yet.
From a Supercoach perspective, I'm a fan, but not a 690k fan versus the Sharks. I think if he had that BE and this matchup this week, say he was playing the Titans or the Cowboys or the Rabbits, I'd be saying trade, make that move. But with the matchup and the BE and the price, I think he's at close to his peak value. He gets a lot of assists off kicks goals for sure, but doesn't have as much line break involvement, where those big point jumps are. So
he's gone above 60 twice this year, which was the 172 and last week the 95. So yeah, same here. I think it is like pretty much you're paying for what you get, like on a good day.
You're going to wear 40s at some point with him. He's young, great talent, just footy wise. But Supercoach wise, I don't think he's a must-have. And if you're talking Dill Brown or him, Dill's not going to get picked for Origin as well. I'd probably lean that way, even though it is tempting. I do like Sammy Walker, even though I'm a New South Welshman, though. I think he's going to come on real nice. But if you buy him, there's going to be weeks where you get a 30 or a 40 with potentially 90 pluses at times. But it's hard work, right? That Chook side, there's so many options and stars. He's assisting the assister or... so probably some valid points there, boys.
Another question for James there was obviously 13 is close, but options for 16, 19. Rabbits, Titans, and Dolphins teams playing both of those buys. It is a little bit far away and a little bit out of my thinking at the moment. But is there any guys that you are eyeing off for post round 13 upgrades?
Well, I can jump in because I know there's a guy I'm looking at to try and fix an issue on my side for the Dolphins. That's JMK, Marshall King at hooker there. I've got Egan. He's going to have to go at some point. Finns play all three of those big buy rounds, so I think that hooker position's tough this year. Harry's not really setting the world on fire. There's some guys that are pretty inconsistent there. Actually, he's not someone I was looking at sort of in this week or anything like that. But yeah, like he hasn't set the world on fire, but he's doing probably better than most in that position.
It's saying a lot in the hooker position this year that pretty much one of the best picks so far has been Reed Marnie. He's averaging like nearly 65. He's gone up 100K in value. He plays 13, 14, 16, and 17. Needs some appreciation for little Reed. He's killing it.
You see, he wouldn't be far off a Queensland jersey if Harry went down as well, would he? Probably Benny Hunt gets there in front of him, maybe. I don't know. But he's probably not too far off.
They wanted to keep the dual hooker strategy there. Yeah.
They probably will, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Hooker's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, but JMK, I like that shout. Those 3 buy rounds, he's reliable. He's the hooker you probably want for this period of time. It's just whether or not he's worth a trade if you don't have a guy underperforming there.
Yep.
All right, another question. Someone's asking about captaincy. He's finding it difficult as Pitbull, struggling between Drinkwater and Edwards. Who do we like for captaincy this week, boys?
You have to go. If you're deciding between Edwards and Drinkwater, you have to go Edwards. Surely.
Yeah, I don't really disagree. I think he's got the same ceiling, but he's got a much better floor.
And the Warriors are completely arse at the moment, and they don't have SJ. And they've got CMK in the halves.
And Rogers out, and their back line looks rather atrocious this week, the Warriors. Panthers could do a number on them.
They didn't look good. They didn't do... they probably did well to stop the floodgates last week, but Joey and Dom Young made that left edge of theirs look absolutely ridiculous. That's a fair call. I think I'm sort of waiting for a Souths bounce back, to be honest, lads. I don't know where it's going to come from, but I just think they've got too many stars in that side for them to keep going this shit. But, they keep going shit every week. But so I get the drinky chat, but yeah, you're probably leaning towards probably Edwards. I think the only other thing, I don't know how you factor it in, but then Magic Round this weekend, there's going to be that track's going to get ripped up pretty quickly. Those games are a little bit later in the weekend. I don't know if you can really weigh that into your decision making around captaincy or anything like. I don't think there's too much rain around. Maybe on Friday, if I remember, there's a little bit. The weekend should be fine. I can't recall. I have to check, but I'm actually looking at someone like Reece on the Friday night in Brisbane. He's just got that blow up potential. Manly without Turbo, they haven't been awesome defensively either this season, and it's possibly not a pod captain, but maybe not an obvious one. I don't know, but that's just maybe an area I'm looking at because I think there's a lot of chat around guys like Drinky this week. But that's maybe not a balls out move, but you got to do something different, right, to try and make up some ground.
Like it. I think Edwards,
Should
Walsh.
goal kick.
Yep. Edwards, Walsh, and Fafita, I think, are the 3 guys that are really good captaincy options this week, and I'm probably going to own none of them. So I'm a little nervous going into it. I'll probably be on Drinkwater myself, just partly because I know a lot of the masses will be hurt after the 59 last week, and people don't seem to like capturing the same guy the week after they let them down. So I'd probably be going back to the well. and not sure whether VC will go. I'm wanting to wait and see what's happening with Hines. If he looks like being out, I might VC Drinky and just take a look at him and might even captain Bags on Sunday afternoon.
That's right. I think Feeder's a great shot. Look straight past that. Have you got for Feeder? It'd be hard to go past him too.
Yeah.
I wish I had for Feeder. Yeah, I'm doing
Yeah.
Drinky as well. No idea who I'm facing.
Go the no for Feeders, boys. Stay strong.
We got a question from Alex, who I think is doing pretty well himself. I think he's in around that inside the top 1,000. He's asking us to pick 2. Cash not an issue. Dylan Edwards, Matt Burton, Blaze Talangi, or David Armstrong. 2 of the 4.
Oh, surely Edwards has to be one of them. If cash isn't an issue. And then I'd pick between Talagi and Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm going Edwards and Burton. I know there's probably always that cloud there around Origin, whether even Burton and Edwards are there. But if that's not a factor, Burton's been in awesome form. He's gone a bit under the radar, to be honest. He hasn't probably got the mention he's deserved, to be fair. He has been awesome. If anyone's played their way into a Blues jersey, for me, it's Matt Burton.
I definitely think
yeah,
he's been really good, but I think he's closer to Origin than Edwards is. I don't see Teddy not playing game 1.
I think the only reason now, especially for that, is they've lost too much. Like, I don't think they can afford to not have someone like Teddy out there with all no Cleary, no Turbo. There's some, I guess, big names there for New South Wales that we're missing. No Trell. Potentially hearing it's going to be a new look side. So I think they're going to be missing too much experience for them to throw that experiment out there. But who knows? But yeah, going back to the question, I'd be going Edwards and Birdo. But if the Origin cloud of doubt, you maybe look at the other 2, Talagi and Armstrong. Do you reckon with Gutho, there's been a chat, boys, that his knees are past it, and maybe he comes back and plays a bit of centre? If that's the case, he looked unbelievable. He looked real good, passes the eye test, and he's tough. He doesn't look like much, to be fair, but he's tough. He hit Turbo one week there and didn't move. He can take a hit. He runs hard. I'm a big fan of Talagi, actually. He looks real good.
I think as well that 93 had on the weekend, that could have been a lot bigger. He had the linebacker tried for obstruction. Pass to no one. He looked unreal. And
he had 3 or 4 errors, didn't he?
Yeah, he got caught out under the high ball a couple times.
Very good, attacking situations as well.
I just think Guy's second game at fullback, though, to do what he did against the Broncos, he made Ezra Mann look ordinary on the inside there. He's got some really nice footwork. Yeah.
I think I'd be grabbing him and Edwards. I had a look before to see where the cash gen's coming from moving forward. I couldn't really see much. I don't think there's anyone debuting this week that looks like there might be a future cash cow. Maybe the Warriors centre for round 14, but Roger wouldn't be too far away, and Rocco Berry's been a bit of a staple there. I'm not sure where our cash outs are coming for, so I'd find it hard to pass up both of these 300k fullbacks. And I think Blaze just looks like he's got a higher ceiling than Armstrong. I think the Eels are a better attacking side. I think the Knights are a better footy team overall at the moment, but from just an attack point of view, which is where the points come from, I think they're better and offers more opportunity to Blaze, and I think that's where I'd be leaning.
Completely.
How long's Gutho meant to be out for? That'd be the only issue with him is what happens to him once Gutho's back as well.
Round 14, Gutho's due back, but I was having to play around before. If Talangi scores a 50 this week, he goes up about 50k, and then he has a minus 29 break even. So if he puts up a couple good scores, even if Gutho is back round 14, he could make a quick 150k and offer a good score in the meantime. He's playable.
He's also tiptoeing around leaving the Eels, so if that makes him happy and he has a couple good games, they might leave him, like you said, in the fullback spot.
It's a good point, though, the cash gen. We got Jacob Gagai playing this week, but no guarantees with his jersey weeks following that, Dom Young, you're obviously not getting on him for the cash because he's probably keeper. So yeah, it starts to get a bit thin after that. Talangi, Terrell May, probably already should have him if you didn't trade him out already. And Armstrong are the best candidates. So yeah, it's probably fair points. I actually thought I didn't realise how much Falago was either this week. I thought he was actually closer to bottom dollar. He's not necessarily must have by any stretch of the imagination.
Is he still a
he-
player? Because when's Paps back? Paps is back around 14, right?
You'd have to think Paps is not back in 4, surely. Like after
don't
that
think so?
injury, after injuries he's had, back in 4 weeks,
Yeah,
I would
okay.
be. That's when he's scheduled to return. So I guess we've got to go off that. But yeah, I think it was 4 to 6 originally, and now it's gone to round 14, which is 4. I'd be stunned if he's back then. But if he's it's that round 14 problem, right? With these guys coming back, you could lose a Blaze Talangi that round or a Suafar Lungo. When your Origin players don't back up, that round is just looking dangerous.
He's the only one that I can see that's at that low price that could, pump out a big score and possibly start that gen, but it's a punt. You're taking a massive punt on him getting that big score if you go now.
And he needs it soon. If he's going to make cash
he needs it pretty much this week.
this week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, even if it comes in round 13 or round 12 or round 14, he's not going to be able to make use of that big score.
Capitalise on it, yeah.
Yeah. Got another question around similar things. Buying a second center wing, a second row forward or front row forward at under 528k. He's thinking targeting an upside in Marju, Kula, Armstrong, or Talangi. Would you get one of these guys or go for someone else under that 528k mark? Marju's quite interesting. And Kula.
But surely, with all the ice kissing we just did with Talagi, it's still Talagi.
I think so.
I don't know if Maju is interesting. What did he score last week? An 87. That's all right.
87, I think. Try 2
Right.
line breaks, LBA. It's quite a lot of attack for an 87 for Greg.
It's true.
No KP. I think the draw card of Greg is obviously KP throwing that ball to him, though, to be fair. I'm a Knights fan. We still haven't really figured it out, I don't think, to be honest, with KP out. And then obviously Gamble's now injured. Cogger should come in, but Armstrong's not really that ball-playing fullback either. So I think those opportunities for Marzu, whilst he did look good on the weekend and he's probably bottomed out, I think you could miss him. That said, the Knights will play 13 and 19. I just like him a bit more with KP in the side for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Other than that, off the top of my head.
Plays Titans this week, goes into a bye, then Dogs, Storm, and Penrith. Can't do it.
I think it's a good option if what you're hoping for is some scores this week in the bye round, maybe make 100k slowly, but I don't see him competing with these top center wings, the Dom Youngs, the Manus, the Lomaxes, the Holmes. I just don't think I agree with Brent. It was that without KP, he probably doesn't have the ceiling of those other guys.
What was the money threshold, the number?
528.
I mean, Cooler is an interesting one. It's just that their bye schedules, they don't play 13. What are they for? What are they for 16 and 19? They do play 16 and 19. He's a really interesting one, actually, Cooler. He's pretty cheap,
Very.
470.
Killed it last year at fullback, albeit against the depleted Tigers and Dog sides.
Damn it.
What's his base like? Is he busy? I can't remember off the top of my head.
From top of my head, I think it was about 25-ish points in runs. And those games he was busting tackles for fun.
He's played, round 24 last year, 34 in base at fullback, which is
Solid.
not bad. But he's going to be busy. He's going to take a lot of those runs that So yeah, I don't mind Cool actually as well as whoever that was that suggested that. I think he's a good call as well. Him or Mazu aren't bad, but it'd probably be nice to go someone like Talangi and bank a bit of cash too.
I think if Manly had a better draw, I'd be all over Cooler. But I think we touched on it earlier with Garrick. Broncos Storm by Penrith it's not a good month of footy.
Yeah, that's a good shout as well. Actually, the draw's terrible.
All right, we've got another question in there, but it's more so trade suggestions, ideas, and he's got a team there. Kind of hard. He's flying at 792 J Fish Dog, but I don't know, I'm not going to read out the full team, but I'm sure me or Holden can get in there and give you our thoughts. We've got one question in the live chat from Stephanus Constantine. Hey guys, what's a better trade? Cleary to Burton, Turbo to Edwards, and Galvin to Weeks, or Fuller to Drink, Fuller again to Walsh? I'm guessing that's meant to be Turbo. So Fuller to Drink, Turbo to Walsh, and Galvin to Weeks. So basically Burton and Edwards in versus Drinkwater and Walsh.
Drinkwater and Walsh.
Drinkwater and Walsh versus Burton and Edwards, it looks like.
Who does he end up keeping? So he ends up keeping Fuller in the first one.
Yeah, keeps Fuller in the first one. Keeps Fuller, has Burton and Edwards, or keeps Cleary, has Drink and Walsh.
I feel like I wanted to say neither and stop forcing the Galvin and Weeks trade. Is that...
Don't like Galvin and Weeks?
Is that a must? Like, do you have to do that this week?
He's just probably that good downgrade option in the dual 5'8", dual 5'8" fullback, I think.
He's got a pretty...
minus 22 break even and under 300k. So I get it for the bank of cash, but I don't think you have to do it. I think Galvin's quality, to be honest. He might not have some huge scores in him, but I think there's going to be weeks where he scores 60, 70 pretty easily. He's a pretty good basey 5'8".
He's pretty good. And I think I'm planning on holding him, but I also like the idea of getting off him as well. People are playing him most weeks, are banking on a rookie 18-year-old 5'8" playing for the West Tigers. Seems like a pretty good antipod to take on when you look at it that way. But I'm not too convinced on Weeks is, I think, the issue for me with that. But if I was forced into one of those moves, I'm probably doing the Burton and Edwards play and keeping Fuller, just with round 13 numbers in mind. You might get both Burton and Edwards, or you'll at least have Fuller, and you're more than likely going to have Edwards. But if your round 13 numbers are very, very good, I think Drink and Walsh will have the bigger, ceiling potential over the next fortnight.
It's just bloody so hard without knowing what that Origin side's going to look like as well. If Burton's not there, I'll be going pretty quickly, to be honest. But I think there's a good chance he's there somewhere, even off the bench potentially, to be honest.
I think it's ridiculous if he's not the 6.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be putting him in 6 every day.
Just going to say real quick, also with Weeks, I think he had like a really unreal game round 9, but I feel like he's never passed the eye test one other than that week.
I'd agree with that. But there's not much else out there in terms of cash gen under 300k at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Galvin could still have a little bit in him as well. He's only got a 37 break even. It's obviously not the same as Weeks. And I get the Weeks buy is also a bit of buyer coverage for a couple of those rounds. But I reckon I've got way bigger problems than getting off Galvin.
The Tigers' buy schedule is just unreal as well.
Yeah, that too.
All the minor ones and play 16 and 19.
Why did we have to get the unreal buy schedule?
Doesn't help for Supercoach, does it?
No. I mean, it helps the Tigers, I guess, but I've given up on rooting for my team about 6 years ago.
I want. I can't. Is it Samuela Fainu?
Yeah,
Playing
I want him.
on the edge, you can pick him at front row, but I just need him to stay quiet for another couple of weeks because it's not a priority at the moment. I'm waiting for him to explode with a try or two though, and start making some cash. But
I think he's a very good guy to get in before that happens. Ideally, you want it before that week.
I've got Ruben Cotter, who I started with, and that's who I'm waiting to trade come into Origin. I'm hoping it can be to him and maybe bank a bit of cash, but yeah, it's a story for another week.
Ruben Cotter definitely did owners a favour getting that big score.
Yeah.
Just far enough away from Origin so that he's going to be peak price at time to sell.
Yeah, the 55s were doing my head in most of the year, so I was rejoiced to see that 99 from him a couple of weeks ago, definitely.
That's the final of the live questions, I believe. I'll just have a quick look. I was one other question in that not in the live chat, but who has better upside keeper potential out of Barnett or Terrell May? One is going to Haas, the other player potentially stays long term.
Oh, that's rough. I mean, if we're saying like there's no extenuating circumstances, it's Terrell all day. But there are so many circumstances where it might not be Terrell. The bench is effed for him, right?
You got Lemieux back, but Lindsay will play a bit of Origin, so that's sort of like maybe get some minutes over the next sort of few weeks. J-Dub's always not too far from a forearm or something.
But isn't like the thing with Trent Robinson is I feel like he's already proved that it doesn't matter like who's on the bench, who's injured, and who's not. Like if you're playing well, he's going to play longer minutes, right? And if he starts the game average or starts playing average, once he goes in, he's going to get pulled off quicker. So you don't know when he's going to have that off week, and he scores you like 25.
That's a tough thing. I think if he doesn't score that double the other week, no one's even talking about him right now, to be honest. If he had scored a 40 that week and he wouldn't have been making the money he's making, you'd be saying Barnett. I mean, Barnett's obviously... Has he been named on the edge again this week? Played on the edge last week. The Warriors have been absolute cactus. Pickable at front row, but playing on the edge is a big plus. Has he been named there again? He has. So he'll probably play 80. I'll probably be leaning towards Barney just because his situation's better. Even playing prop, he's playing 60 minutes. But I'd imagine he's probably a little bit more expensive as well. That'd be the only thing.
Well, I can say, I think I would lean to almost holding Barney just because I think everything you mentioned about Mays is very unpredictable. And if this guy's getting in Haas at his second slot front row, and I'm assuming if he doesn't have AFB now, it's going to be a priority for anyone that doesn't own before their round 16 bye. So this player is going to sit at FRF 3, and we're not going to reserve that player, really. We're going to be looking to reserve centre wings the whole way home and fullbacks and halfbacks. So I'd almost just want Barney just because you know a bit more what you're going to get from him. If you have to slot him in there for a week, you know you're going to get a 50 probably. Whereas Terrell May, you could get him for 25 minutes and 30 points, or you could get him for 50 minutes and 70 points. And I think for that reliability, I'd be tempted to hold Barney.
You've got that duality too. If you've got someone else in there that you might be able to use.
I'm just looking at his
utility.
I'm just looking at his team. He's got Barney, Paseka, and May in FRF. With V for feeder as I guess enough.
He's fourth.
Yeah.
I think Barney's the keeper out of those.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, probably. That's it for the questions, though.
Sweet as, boys. Well, I think, unless there's anything else you want to chat about this evening, might be able to call it. Last call for anything.
All good here.
Touched on captains. You boys looking likely at Drinky.
What are you guys trading this week? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm pretty quickly set on these. I'm going to go Turbo to Drinky and Tamari Martin to Dill Brown.
At the moment, I'm not settled, but I'm most likely going to do Garrick to Dylan Brown. And then the second move is the one I'm more tossing up at the moment. One option is Ethan Strange to David Armstrong, which will leave me nearly 600K in the bank, which will allow Taylor May up to Manu next week in a straight swap. Or
Wow.
Pierce Paul up to Fafita instead.
Must be nice.
Tossing up between that.
You got to go for the Manu. Like Taylor May to Manu sounds absolutely godly.
My centre wing next week, if I did that, would be Young, Manu, Holmes, Karaz, Iro, Talangi, and Armstrong, which is great heading into with 6 of those playing round 13. So it's tempting, but not sure if I want to hold a Pierce Paul if he's sticking around on the bench.
Yeah, fair. I'm doing either Joe Chan or KPP to Tulagi, and I'm going to hold the second trade. I'm either going to use it if any shenanigans go on this week and I end up with no halfback, or I'm just going to play the AE, or I'm just going to save the trade.
Yep. Pray for no shenanigans this week.
Yeah.
I'm envious of you being able to save a trade. I don't know what that is. What is that? Well, thanks for tuning in tonight, everyone that's out there. Myth, Holden, thank you very much, gentlemen. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the Supercoach Hub on YouTube and also on Spotify. You can find the podcast. There's obviously the Supercoach Hub Discord, if not already in that amazing community, and plenty of awesome content and like-minded people in there to bounce thoughts off and everything like that. Otherwise, gents, all the best for round 11. Enjoy your Magic round and good luck over the upcoming buys and Origin period.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Peace.